We have some incredible innovations in the horticulture sector featuring on Ceres Country's Changemaker. But how is horticultural technology placed in an international scale? And what are some of those major scientific challenges that technology can help solve into the future? Well, as part of the speaker lineup for E Tipu 2021, PlantTech Research Director Dr. Ian Yule is going to join us to explain how New Zealand-based research and development organisation is specialising in cutting-edge artificial intelligence solutions. And Ian joins us now. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the program, Ian.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you for having me.
No worries. Well, and this is part of our ongoing coverage of the speakers of E Tipu. Ian, and I'm really looking forward to hearing. I mean, we do really like to talk about the fact that, you know, here in New Zealand, we are very innovative and forward-thinking in agri-tech, but globally, really, are we?
I think we're good at generating ideas. But I think we also need to be aware that if we're going to compete internationally, then we need to compete on international markets. And I think that's where it gets a lot more challenging for us. And, developing longer term businesses, developing partnerships that will, these things take a few years. And I think there are some very good stories coming out of New Zealand in terms of the agri-tech sector. But it is a bit patchy. And I think while there's a lot of starters, there's maybe not so many finishers in it, but it is a tough environment to operate in. But it's related to size of markets and so on. Those are all factors that matter.
So when it comes to producing a competitive advantage for our horticultural growers here in New Zealand, that is one thing, but producing agri-tech that is actually can transpire across boundaries into global markets, the scale size must be, as you just pointed out, is extremely difficult. So are we going about it the right way round?
I think there is. Yeah, I think we're trying to, and I think people like Callaghan Innovation, for example, are trying to encourage not just that first wave of innovation, but also that business development, partnerships, etc. I think one of our own shareholding companies, Robotics Plus, is a good example where they've actually been in the game a long time and have partnered with overseas companies to do particular things. And there you might think that an overnight success is, but it's actually taken 10 years in the development. So these are companies that have put serious effort into developing relationships with overseas companies and so on. So I think we are getting better at recognizing that this is something we need to do more of. I think in the past we've probably been very quick to innovate and try and generate innovative ideas, but we perhaps haven't followed them through as well as we could. But I'm hoping that situation is beginning to change.
And a part of our future of producing food and fibre is very much under a microscope, and precision agriculture has certainly got a huge role to play in achieving environmental outcomes, as well as, of course, maximising yield to feed the world at the same time. Ian, can you tell us a little bit about your career and co-founding Hyperceptions as well? That's really fascinating.
Yeah, well, so my career, I suppose, is spanning a large number of years now, but I came over to New Zealand to do precision agriculture about 24 years ago. I'm working in that space, but the reason that I moved to PlantTech was really that I came to the realization that more and more the rate of acceleration in terms of the need for computer science was increasing. So, our sensors are becoming more complex. We're generating more data. We're more complex in how we do data analytics. And so we need better computer science. And so what I could see was the likes of myself working in a university environment, we were making incremental change, but we needed to make change faster. And that's what I saw with PlantTech, that what we could do is get a group together of AI experts that could really understood the technology first and foremost, and then we could apply that to horticulture.
So what does that look like in an example that you can give us?
One example is we're about to embark on a survey this week that will. It's actually through hyperceptions that it's an aerial survey technique that we use, a thing called a hyperspectral camera. I just sat down before the interview, and I think we're going to collect something like 180 billion data points. And so those are the sorts of things that have changed. And we not only do we do that, but that's one source of data that we need to integrate that with others. But we also need to turn the information around relatively quickly. And we need to be, there is actually demand for high accuracy. So what Hyperceptions does was it was born from a joint project between Massey University and Ravensdown Fertiliser. And it was really around looking at hill country and could we identify soil fertility from what we see above ground. And so the sensor measures the vegetation, but can we interpolate what's happening in the soil from the vegetation above ground? And that's where the Hyperceptions started. So, yeah.
And where are you at with that technology and the ability to do that?
Well, I suppose I'm a believer in the technology and a bit of an advocate for it. But in terms of what we can do is we can describe our environment in a huge amount of detail. So we can do things like, so what we want to do with some of our fruit crops, for example, is look at the link between the nutrition of the canopy, so what is its nutrient content, and the performance of the fruit, of the crop. So what is its yield? What is its storability? It's because obviously with things like kiwi fruit, apples, we export them. We need them to stay in the correct condition. So what we're trying to do is look at, well, how can we best prepare fruit to be, the ultimate in terms of its flavor, it keeps well, it performs exactly as we would like. Other factors in terms of the nutrition that we can do and the husbandry that we can do on the orchard, what can we do there that will actually ensure that happens? So it's really trying to create those sorts of links.
It's fascinating. My brain goes to the application of being able to map soil carbon. Could we go that far?
Yeah, I think there's various examples in the world that shown how that can be done, and I think again there would be some it would be, I think, around interpolating what's happening above ground, looking at the landform, the things like digital elevation models. We can model then what the soil carbon would look like. There are other ways that we could measure on a more smaller scale, a physical scale. You could measure, in terms of carbon content and so on. All of those things are measurable.
Fantastic. Ian, I'd lastly like to talk to you about the key messages that you will be presenting on at E Tipu.
Yeah, I think it's the kind of march of technology is still moving forward, and we're moving at a faster rate. I think things are getting more complex. We're having to use different technologies, better technologies than we've done in the past. I think what I would like to emphasize as well is to develop these sorts of technologies, we really need partnerships. It's a long-term game. It's not a 5-minute job to see what these things will produce. It is a 2-year task perhaps. But yeah, I think that's the sorts of message that I would like to give, is that there's a huge amount of possibility there, but it's we've got to kind of get serious about how we approach it in terms of making partnerships and working collaboratively with a lot of other people, which I think, in fairness to New Zealand, it's something that we possibly haven't been very good at in the past.
Yes, absolutely. I can agree with you on that last point there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dr. Ian Yule, Research Director for PlantTech Research, as well as co-founder of Hyperceptions, speaking at E Tipu Boma New Zealand Agri-Grow Summit in the Christchurch Town Hall, 11th and 12th of May this year. I have word on the street that tickets have sold already higher than the 2019 event. So if you want to be a part of that, be in that room with some incredible networking to therefore kick off some of those key collaborations, as Ian said. Make sure you head to etipu.boma, BOMA, .global, and you can use the word Sarah still just slightly to get you $100 off your early bird ticket, but that will be closing very, very shortly. So I look forward to seeing you at the event as well.
Oh, nice boots.
Yeah, thanks. They're new.
Ben, you alright?
Oh, yeah, sorry, mate. Just meerkatting pretty hard, eh? Yeah. I just said to myself, Ben, work hard. You deserve new boots.